All right, man, let's go ahead and get back over to the NFL season, and it has just gotten underway, and we have a great opportunity now to give out some early season award predictions. These are always fun, so we got the usual suspects up, Drinks. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's start with MVP. Who do you think is going to be the MVP of the 2020 NFL season?
My MVP for the 2020 NFL season will be a guy that I think should have been at least a two-time MVP at this point, but for some reason they keep throwing dirt on his name, baby, and that's Russell Wilson, the quarterback out of the Seattle Seahawks. He has done nothing but go to the gym and work on his shoulders because he's been carrying this team season after season after season. Listen, ever since the Legion of Boom was in and left, you cannot say Russell Wilson has not put this team on their shoulders since the Legion of Boom era. I'm sorry. Man can't get an offensive line no matter what he do. And then on top of that, some of these rooted poop like wide receivers outside of Doug Baldwin. I mean, now he got DJ Metcalf and possibly Josh Gordon here. But, listen, the guy has done enough. You got a head coach that only care about the defense, clearly. And he's still getting it done. I think he finally won the MVP. Put some respect on that man there.
I can't disagree with you on that one. Too much. I think Wilson's definitely a candidate. Poor guy, working on the shoulders and the legs, running from that pass rush he's always running from. I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes. I'm really going to overthink this one too much. And I know that's not really like a sexy pick or anything. And I think that Mahomes statistically may not quite have the year he had last year, but I think like the Chiefs are going to be so dominant this year. I think you're talking about a 14, 15 win football team. I'd say if there was ever a team that would go 16-0, would it not be potentially this team this year? I don't know if the defense is good enough for that, but I think that the Chiefs are going to be dominant through almost every one of their games. And I think that domination of the league is going to be, even if it's more balanced in the running game and the passing attack is going to be, he won't have like the video game numbers maybe, but they're going to best record in the NFL. They're going to be a 1 seed. I think that's going to get Patrick Mahomes the nod for that. All right, let's go over to Offensive Player of the Year. He got.
Did you say 16-0? Speaking of 16-0, let's talk about a team that should, I think, really have a very high chance going 16-0, and that's one the Baltimore Ravens, led by their quarterback Lamar Jackson. And listen, I think it's a very high chance. People got to understand, Baltimore has the easiest schedule in the NFL this year. The easiest schedule. And they got top 3, most talented team in the NFL. And you got top 2 most electrifying quarterback in the NFL, right? So with all that, when you put all that in the ingredients and you put that in the cake and you bake that young gun, listen, Lamar Jackson got a very good chance of being the Offensive Player of the Year. And I do think if they go 16-0, he might be the MVP as well. But the reason I probably would knock him is because of the strength of schedule. We know Russell Wilson is going to play some killers when he had to go up against just in his division, the 49ers, the Rams, the Cardinals, just up in his division, and then all the other teams in the NFC, Cowboys, Green Bay, whoever else they might end up playing. That's why I gave it to Russell Wilson for the MVP. But yeah, my Offensive Player of the Year will be one. Last year's MVP, Lamar Jackson.
Not a bad one. I'm a little skeptical on how good he's going to be this year. I think they might have a little bit of a step back, but they could also just keep defying the expectations and do what he does. So he's all he's done in his career so far. So I'm going to go with someone a little bit off the wall. I'm going to go with Saquon Barkley, running back for the New York Giants. I think that the Giants are going to be a very surprising team this year. And I can't even tell you exactly why I feel that way. Like, I can't put it on paper and make like a great paper argument for it, but I just there's a team or two every year that comes out that we didn't see coming, right? And I think the Giants might be that team. And one of the reasons I think Barkley has the year he has, one, is he was hurt last year, so he's had a year to get back to healthy and being good to go and everything. We forget how electrifying his rookie year was. And even then, he was fighting some injuries here and there. But they've invested heavily in the offensive line. Get Andrew Thomas and Will Hernandez, some first-round picks on that left side. And I think Daniel Jones represents just enough of a passing threat where he's not going to light it up for 4,000 yards or anything. But I think that Daniel Jones already showed us that he's competent enough to run the passing game and be a dual threat. So the Giants are going to have somewhat of a balanced attack, and it's not going to be just the Saquon show and no questions asked and 9-man boxes and whatnot. He's probably the biggest threat on the offense, but I think that the Giants can do enough to get him involved, and I think Saquon Barkley is posed for a really big year. All right, so over to defensive player of the year. You got.
Did you say a dark horse? Would you say off the wall pick? I got one for you. Off the wall. I went with Darius Leonard of the Indiana Colts. Listen,
Okay.
all-pro guy in his rookie year. He took a step back last year. I think he bounced back. He gets that defense rallied up. I think the Colts will be a little better than I give them credit for, just because of Phillip Rivers. They had another quarterback. I probably give them more credit. And I think that defense plays a lot better than we're looking at them right now. And it'll be because, one, Darius Leonard, that middle linebacker, getting them in their right spots, getting them flying around, getting them playing. I like what he does. He is a dark horse. And, let's say even if he don't finish defense player of the year, I think he will be in that top 3 or finalist or whatever the case might be for the award. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the young gun middle linebacker for the Indianapolis Colts.
He's a special dude, and get to see him twice a year when I watch the games at least, and he definitely stands out every game. Wouldn't doubt it one bit. I'm going with Nick Bosa here, and I'll be real honest with you. I want to put Josh Allen from the Jaguars on here, but I know I'd be a homer if I did that, so I'm going to go away. But I do have that kind of confidence in my man Josh Allen. Really good player we got. But anyway, I think that Nick Bosa, who had a very similar year to Josh Allen statistically in their rookie years, I'm going against the Aaron Donald grains again. You and me both think that probably Aaron Donald is like the easy pick here.
Yeah.
But Nick Bosa had 9 sacks. He had 16 tackles for loss, 25 quarterback hits as a rookie. And he's going to have Javon Kinlaw on that defensive line now. They still have a couple other studs on that defensive line. And I think that the Niners are overall still a very, very good team, and they're going to be ahead in a lot of games. And teams are going to have to try to throw the ball to come back, and that's going to give Nick Bosa a lot of opportunities. So I think he might very well have a case for Defensive Player of the Year. All right, let's go ahead and move over to the rookies. Got to put good options here. Offensive Rookie of the Year. Who do you think?
Hey, I know this might sound like a bit of a homer pick here, but it is what it is, baby. You know I got to go with my boy Tua down in Miami. I think once he gets to get into the game, I don't think he starts the season. So they might put him a little bit behind the power curve unless Fitzpatrick gets smoked on the first or second play, and then Tua trots out there. But I would say this: once he get into the game, he's in a comfortable situation. He's in Miami. He's comfortable in Miami. He played a lot of ball in Miami. And the guy, he has something to prove. When you got something to prove, you come out there with the fire in the belly. He want to show that he's going to bounce back from that hip injury, that he can still play, and he can spin that ball. He got some weapons down in Miami. And it's not a lot of pressure on him right now. See, him and Joe Burrow are in 2 different situations. People are going to put pressure on Joe Burrow because he was the first overall pick. Even though he's on the worst team, he's still going to have more pressure. I think Tua comes in, lights some things up, turns some heads, and possibly eke out that offensive rookie of the year towards the end of the season.
I thought about him a lot. My concern was just him getting on the field. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick is not just some scrap heap quarterback. I think he might be able to do enough to keep his job for a while. Because, a lot of teams will have a first round pick, and then they'll have like just some dude, and then some dude gets, kicked out of the game by game 2. But if he does, I definitely think he definitely could be. I'm going to go with J.K. Dobbins. I think, this is kind of playing into the whole thing. I think Lamar Jackson maybe takes just a tiny step back this year. And I think the Ravens are going to have to balance out the offense a little bit more. And I think with Mark Ingram getting up there in age, Dobbins is going to get a lion's share of the carries. And the Ravens just employ so many chances for running backs to get touches, from backfield passes, RPOs, everything else. And Dobbins, I think, was criminally underdrafted in this draft. And I think he's going to have a huge chip on his shoulder, and I think that he's going to have a whale of a year out of the gate.
Now, I got one question. So where did that put Gus Edwards in his rotation?
I just think he's better. I'd be honest with you.
Okay.
I guess I kind of you're making the same argument I just made for against Tua, which is not getting enough touches. But I think it's one of those things where Dobbins likely just is so good out of the gate that they're just going to go, well, I mean, why are we just going to give this kid the carries? It just makes too much sense. So I think CeeDee Lamb is a very good argument too, if you wanted to put up a second, here, another possible honorable mention. All right, let's keep it moving. We have next up Defensive Rookie of the Year. Some more good options. What do you think?
I'm gonna go with the guy down in Detroit. One Jeff Okudah, the cornerback. Listen, I heard this amazing stat about Jeff Okudah, and ever since then, I had to go back and watch some film on him last year just to see if it's true. Do you know last year he did not have not one pass interference call on him, not one defensive holding call on him. He didn't have no negative calls on him the whole season last year at Ohio State. That is impressive. I don't care who you are. You know how easy it is to get a pass interference call? You just run into a player, not even paying attention, they throw the flag. He did not get one of those calls. And I don't think it's just because he was paying off the referees or some conspiracy theory. I think he was just that good. His long arms, his frame, very, very good technique, and he just know how to play the game. And I feel like he could be one of those guys that cut the field in half. Unfortunately, he played for the Detroit Lions, so I guess it won't matter much. But he would do enough where people would, I think, recognize him for his skill set. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Jeff Okudah on that one.
Not bad. That's some pretty interesting stats. Yeah, I'm gonna go, and I think both you and me again would both agree if we were like if a gun was to our head, it'd be probably Chase Young. We would pick. I mean, but again, trying to get some other guys involved here. I'm gonna go with Kenneth Murray, linebacker for the Chargers out of Oklahoma, draft pick. I think it was 26. They traded back up to get him. The Chargers have a great defense, and this is even without Derwin James. I think Murray is going to have plenty of opportunities to shine in this defense. And I just loved watching him at Oklahoma. I thought he was a fantastic player. And I think in the NFL, he's going to have like a really well-rounded game. He can rush the passer sometimes. He can stop the run. He's got a little bit of coverage in him. I think that they're going to find all kinds of uses for Murray. And he may very well, by a combination of all the things he can do, he might wind up winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. But I think Jeff Okudah, there's a reason he was picked in the top 3. He was right behind Chase Young, so definitely a reason for that. All right, let's go ahead and get away from the players a little bit and move on to the coaches for a moment. A lot of good Coach of the Year candidates you got.
Well, and like I said, it's a lot of good ones, but I went with 2 in the AFC East division. My primary is going to be Sean McDermott. I think this is the year where someone other than New England wins that division, and I think that's going to open a lot of eyes to the voters, the writers, the media, everybody that votes on this award. And I think he get his just due this year. But my secondary is one Bill Belichick. Why? Because the Patriots offseason have been this slow motion. If he gets this team to the playoffs with Cam Newton and a bunch of guys at wide receiver core, it's going to be very hard not to recognize him for that. It's going to be very, very hard. This is probably one of the worst teams Bill had since he's been with the Patriots. And if he still wins that division with this team, you kind of got to put some respect on his name, even though he's the GOAT when it comes to that. But you still got to put a little more respect. That's going to be very tough. So, yeah, I went with Sean McDermott as my number 1 and Bill Belichick as number 2.
Yeah, not only was all the talent signed away from New England, but then they had all the they were hit the hardest by the COVID opt-outs. They lost 3 or 4 more quality starters, on that team. So that would be. I mean, I think they're going to do it, but I think that that would definitely make a good case. I'm going to go with Bruce Arians. So, and I know that maybe sounds a little off because it's like, well, duh. I mean, look at all these dudes they've got. But I think that there's something to be said about taking a completely different team. I mean, you're talking like the Bucs were literally transformed. You got all these different personalities. You got former first-round picks looking for new homes. You got old-ass quarterbacks. You got dudes coming back from retirement. You got all these new faces. You got to put this all into a pot and come out with a chili. And that's hard. I mean, it's hard to do. There's so many different things at work and the expectations of this team. I mean, it's sky high. It ain't like, hey, Bruce, you got 2 or 3 years to figure this out and do the thing. Like, this is it, man. Like, you were expected to win it all this year and to manage all that and to manage all the personalities he's got and to put a team together and kind of get around that suspect defense. I think they're going to do it. I think they'll be in the NFC Championship, and I think that Bruce Arians will be commended for that. All right, last one. Last but not least, we're going to have Comeback Player of the Year. Who do you think?
I'm going to go with a guy that's going back to his stomping grounds. That's Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley, he done had a turbulence last 2 years because of that knee and then the contract and everything with Los Angeles. But Todd Gurley once played his college ball at the University of Georgia, where he made a name for himself. And you got to remember, Todd Gurley was the number 10 pick in his draft, and he didn't really even do anything in the combine because he had knee surgery. So when you think about this, they went strictly off what he did in Georgia. He's back in Georgia. And Atlanta Falcons, I think they're going to let him come back and show that he still got game. I think he'll be motivated. I think he's happy to be back in the state of Georgia. He's happy to be in Atlanta, be in the dome, and, back around people he's more familiar with and having a good life. So I do think the knee might still be a problem, but I think he's more motivated. And when you're more motivated, you figure it out. And so I'm going to put Ty Gurley as my comeback player.
That's a great pick. I wasn't even really thinking about him at first, but that's I feel like that relationship would be kind of boom or bust a little bit. Again, if that knee still messed up, it might not matter. But yeah, I can see that kind of being a really good storm in Atlanta. We know how good that offense is in the passing attack, so they're going to have opportunities. And it kind of feels like what Devontae Freeman was for them when he was really kind of clicking for that team.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with someone, this might be a little bit cheating, but I'm going to go with Bradley Chubb, Denver Broncos defensive end. And this is in light of the Von Miller news. That he's likely out for the season. And I think that Bradley Chubb's going to have a huge – I mean, Bradley Chubb had I think it was 12 sacks and 20-something quarterback hits in his rookie year. And then last year he missed all but 4 games with an injury. So, he definitely is looking to have that bounce back season. Now, without Von Miller, I think Bradley Chubb is going to really have to be the guy. But I think that one of the secrets for Denver is kind of like how I said with Nick Bosa is the team around him is pretty good. And I think Denver is going to be a lot of shootout games. Like that offense is going to be very prolific. And they're going to be kind of back and forth a lot. And Chubb is going to have a lot of chances to put his ears back and get to the quarterback. And I think he could even improve on that rookie year he had and probably have 14, 15 sacks potentially and have him quite a year.
You're definitely going to need him.
Oh, yeah.